Welcome to my transparent watercolor paint along in it Brandywine part 2, the skills exercise. In this skills exercise video, we'll do 3 practice exercises in preparation for doing the paint along painting in it Brandywine. The first exercise will practice a sky wash. The second exercise will be putting washes on that will help define the building structure. And the third one will be practicing mixing greens and textures that will be used in the painting. The first exercise is a fairly simple exercise, putting down a sky wash. And to do this, I'm going to use manganese blue, which is a tone that looks very much like a blue sky, and it has some nice granulation that I like. But you could also use cerulean for this, or another blue that gives the appearance of sky. So I arbitrarily put some of this wash down in this space that I've taped off and left areas white to be the clouds. And I'm taking my fine mist spray bottle and I'm just softening the edges and giving this more the appearance of soft fluffy clouds in the sky. Here I'm going to pick up the excess water with a tissue. I'm going to add a little bit more color in there. And pick up the extra moisture. And you can see where this starts to take the appearance of a partly cloudy sky. You can see some of the granulation that occurs with the manganese blue. And now all I have to do is dry this, and it's just going to give me the nice suggestion of a partly cloudy day. So I'll take my hairdryer out, and I'm going to go over this until my paper is completely dry. And there you have the representation of a sunlit, partly cloudy day. This is another fairly simple exercise. Just take a pencil and draw a couple building shapes such as this, and decide which side is going to be a shadowed side of the buildings. And then take a wash. In this case, I've got a 1/2 inch brush, and I'm using ultramarine blue. And I'm going to mix in a little rose madder quinacridone, and I'm just giving the indication of the form and the building structure just by painting these shadowed areas. Nice thing about using a flat brush on building structures, it gives you a nice clean sharp edge. And you can see that I'm letting these shadowed areas run right into one another. In essence, I'm creating a large middle value shape that goes from one side to the other to the next building. So just by making a few brush strokes to the middle value, you can see how I've started to define the shape of the building structures and give them some volume. And now I'm going to work behind them in negative space, just putting a light glaze there to help bring out the roof shapes. We're not making a painting here, we're just doing some exercises to illustrate some concepts. I'm just going to put a little bit more behind this structure in negative space here to bring that back building forward a little bit. So I have this wash just about done, and next I'm going to dry this. In the last exercise, I've drawn a little sketch of a fence shape, and I'm going to take masking fluid here. I'm going to mask that fence shape off So to do that, I put a bead of masking fluid down. I'm using a bottle that I've filled myself. And it's not a super fine line, but it just puts down a nice bead. And I can take this rubber tip scraper and spread that out and give an even coat on the shape here that I'm masking. Next, I'm going to load a toothbrush up with masking fluid, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a splatter in this masked off square that I'm working in, and that's going to be the way I'm going to create some texture. And I'm also taking this rubber tip scraper and dragging it through some of those beads, which will give me some linear shapes that I'm masking off here. And the purpose of this exercise is to create some of the textures needed for this painting. And I'll also be mixing some of the greens that I'll be using in the painting. So now I'm going to come in with a mixture of sap green and pyrrole red, and just start making some marks that give a suggestion of a grassy foliage and ground cover, and the suggestion of wildflowers growing behind this fence shape, which is part of the painting in it. Brandywine has a fence shape with such ground cover behind it. So that's the purpose of this exercise, is just to create some of this textural qualities and practice with some of these greens. And the green I'm using right now is a sap green with a royal blue. And in the demonstration video, the tutorial, I'll show the mixing of some of these colors that I'm using in the painting. But you can just mix some middle value, dark valued greens, and just give these types of linear brush strokes that give the suggestion of this grassy ground cover. So I've put an initial layer down of a sap green pyrrole red mixture, and now I'm coming in with a darker mixture which has some royal blue added to it. It's a cooler mixture, and I'm doing very similar brush strokes to what I did with the other mixture. This is just a darker value. And now that I've made a few of these darker, cooler marks, I'm going to hit this with a hairdryer and dry it thoroughly. So now I've built up 2 layers. I've put one on, dried it, and now I put a second layer on and I'm drying it again. Next, I'm going to remove the masking fluid that I put down, and that'll reveal the shape of the fence and the textural highlights that I wanted in the foliage and in the ground cover. Now I'm going to take a purple mixture and I'm going to touch a few of these areas where I saved the white to give the indication of some wildflowers. So this is just a mixture of rose madder, quinacridone, and ultramarine blue, and it gives me a purple tone. I just touch my brush in a few of those areas, and that's just about enough. The other wildflowers that are in this painting are orange. So now I'm going to do the same thing, taking a mixture of orange paint and just giving the indication again of some orange wildflowers along with the purple ones that I've already painted. And once I have those down, I'm going to dry it quickly with a hairdryer. It's not going to take much. I'll just go over it. And I'm doing that because I don't want those colors to bleed into the wash I'm going to apply next, which will be kind of a light bright green. I want those colors to stay pure and have the intensity that they have. I don't want to lose that by painting wet into wet and let those colors run into it. So I've dried it in between the two steps here. And now I'm going to paint the sunlit areas of my greenery and my foliage. So I have a mixture here of sap green and cadmium yellow light. And here I'm painting over some of these areas where I saved the white of the paper. And now I start to get the feeling of shadowed areas of the green, and other areas are much brighter and give the suggestion of being sunlit. So once again, I'm going to dry my exercise here. So this is again just a simple exercise to practice creating some textures, working in these highlights to give the suggestion of wildflowers and bring that shape of that fence out. So those are my 3 exercises. I'm going to go ahead and remove this tape that I have the exercises divided with. And you can see there are 3 very simple exercises. The first one is practicing a sky wash and achieving an effect that gives the feeling of soft clouds. The second one is painting these shadowed areas that help describe the form of the building. And the third one is creating these textures and highlight sunlit areas of foliage and bringing out a fence shape. If you do those 3 exercises, you'll be well on your way to being able to do the paint along in at Brandywine. I hope you enjoyed these exercises, and I hope you continue on to do part 3 of this paint along, the tutorial. If you have questions, you can always email me at contactrsurwitzart@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.